good people of the internet and the podcast from the future. Okay, there's no tune to that, Francesca. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bitchuation Room. I am your host, Francesca Fiorentini. So happy to have you here. Thank you so much for pressing play because you can't be alone with your thoughts. I can't either. Don't worry. I just have it's just a little hamster singing Lizzo in my head. That's all that it's well, I'm in great till you're gonna be great. Like that's all that happens in here. It's also called anxiety, but in my case, it's a gerbil singing Lizzo. Anyway, we have such a great show today. We're going to talk about the Iranian social movements that have rocked that country and the world, have inspired people the world over. What is going on? What is the latest in the crackdown on the people of Iran? What does it mean for the future of the government and the future of this movement that again began after a woman was murdered for not supposedly wearing hijab correctly. So we've spoken a little bit about this on the show, but super excited to have our guest on to break it down for us, as well as comedian Brandie Posey is here, back at it, and we're going to talk about a 4-day work week. Yes, please. And sadly, a ruling that might be coming down any minute now from a Trump-appointed judge about the use of mifepristone, which again is an abortion pill. And it might be ruled illegal. So we'll break down exactly how and why and, sort of redouble our fight against all of this BS. But while you're here, hey, like and share the stream right now. Give me a little thumbs up. How about give this podcast 5 stars right now? Do it. Because there's more. We're going to end the show. It's going to get kind of serious. We're going to end the show with probably one of the least serious people I think I've ever seen on television. And I'm curious as to whether we like her and all of her unfiltered glory, or if she is too cringe for television. And that's a high bar. All right. The Masked Singer is on television. So Rudy Giuliani was on television. So we shall see. We're going to talk about that in the end. And then for all of you Frantifa, for the real Frantifa, for the ride or die, for the patrons, patreon.com/bitchuation room, we have a bonus episode talking about, of course, the Dilbert cartoonist who just couldn't be chill with collecting a paycheck and had to just run his mouth and tell us what he really thinks about Black people. Cool. No one was going to you for your expertise on the subject, bro. And then you just had to run your mouth. And oops, you self-canceled. And good riddance, but we'll talk about what he said, how ridiculous it is. So that's all in the bonus. Patreon.com/bitchuation room to get that content. And once again, if you didn't know, you get all kinds of perks. If you become a patron, you get 20% off all merchandise. If you're a top tier patron, $10 gets you a shout out, $20 and above. Every 3 months, you get a free piece of merch. If you are a patron, you haven't seen that, it should be in your inbox. I promise you it's there. There is a code. You can use that code at checkout. And as a heads up, we will be doing a bonus episode not after the show starting in March, but on Fridays with just me. So that will be available to all patrons and Twitch subscribers, and we'll be rolling out YouTube memberships. So I know this feels like a lot, but basically, if you want to watch and or listen back to that hour-long stream that I'll be doing every Friday, become a patron or become a YouTube member or become a Twitch subscriber. Basically, just support this show. It'll be super fun. It'll be different. It'll be much more relaxed, less structured, but a little less serious, freewheeling and fun. Francesca Fiorentini, freewheeling and fun. Yes, fun. I remember fun. Anyway. Maybe I'll be speaking about, life as a mom, making some mom content on Instagram if you're interested. All right, let's move. We got a lot to talk about. I have a lot to bitch about. So everybody get your bitch caps on right now. And let's get into it. What are you bitching about? So it has only been a few weeks since the major train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. And I'm bitching about the fact that everyone's effing up right now. Everyone is terrible when it comes to this toxic explosion. When it comes to the safety of the people there, when it comes to the safety of everyone in the surrounding areas, in outside of Pittsburgh, and in the pathway of a lot of these trains and railroads, we have yet to get any guarantee that this won't happen again, right? So that's just off the bat. Not only do we not have we not made the people of East Palestine whole, not only have we not addressed their persistent headaches and coughs, but we have also not guaranteed that this is not going to happen next week or 3 weeks from now, right? Again, we've put this in the bucket of mass shootings. We know exactly how to stop them, won't stop them. And I'm bitching about the fact that no one is looking good in the wake of this. Not Joe Biden, not Donald Trump, not obviously Governor of Ohio, DeWine. And we can take it for parts, right? So this would be, let's start with who's president right now, right? And the right is trying to lay this all on the footsteps of and the doorstep of Joe Biden, even though we know it was the Trump administration that rolled back Obama era regulations, allowing for these long trains to even carry these toxic chemicals, and to be going at the speeds that they were going, and to not have the brakes that were adequate to stop something like this, if necessary. So the right is disgusting and ridiculous on it. But when it comes to Biden and Buttigieg, we're not hearing guarantees. We're hearing strong language. We're hearing Buttigieg saying he wants to work with Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern must come to the table. We've really been asked, God, we really want you to work with us. They've been leading from behind, if you will, imagining that industry is just going to wake up one day and have a change of heart and be like, you know what? I don't need another zero at the end of my paycheck. That's never going to happen. All right. And so not only did this administration help preemptively break a train strike from railway workers, but now when this is hitting them in the face, the karma is immediate karma. And they can't even lead on this issue. You know, Buttigieg is making the media rounds. Buttigieg goes to East Palestine. He's wearing the vest, wearing his hard hat, having his hard hat moment, was like, I didn't know this job was going to be as hard. But again, there's no promises. We are halting all trains that carry these toxic chemicals until we can guarantee that they are outfitted with the proper brakes, period. Nothing like that, right? So Buttigieg, Biden over here. Then we got Trump, right? We've got the right. And this is what annoys me about the lack of response from Biden and Buttigieg, is that Trump is trying to run to honestly, a little bit to their left when it comes to his fake populism, right? Going to East Palestine, talking about Trump water, talking about going to McDonald's. What's your specialty, right? He's using this, I think, pretty aptly as a moment to launch a presidential campaign, knowing that he's always spoken to the working class, even though he does not at all give a shit about them, but he's used them as props consistently. And he once again is doing that here. I mean, I'm not saying that, he's gaining in rural areas, and he's always done well in rural areas, right? So there's no exception here. And because there's a lack of response from Democrats, Trump has a lane. He can do it, right? As do other Republicans who are now proclaiming that they now care about the environment. So they're opening investigations. This is the latest news, is there's going to be hearings about what happened in East Palestine. Like anything's going to change, like any of these lawmakers are going to advocate for stronger regulations. All of them are full of shit, y'all. Everyone is lying. And to prove everyone's full of shit, here is a bipartisan moment just brought to you by sheer PR disgustingness. That works. Where you have Governor Mike DeWine, and you have head of the EPA, Michael Regan, and head of the Ohio EPA, Ann Vogel. So you've got some bipartisanship here, together drinking the water in East Palestine for the cameras. And mind you, I was looking at these clips and I'm like, wait a minute, there's two different times they did. Yeah, They did it 2 different times, and I could tell because they had 2 different cups. So here they are toasting how clean the water is in East Palestine.
Okay. Cheers. Here's to you. Okay.
It's pretty good water.
Good water. Yeah, I'll take second swing.
Click, click, click. That's pretty good water, says Michael Regan. There was another clip where Michael Regan goes, nice and cool. Like, which, look, I don't begrudge a dude for like not knowing what to say in the middle of a photo op. You know, it's just, he's like, what do you say? And we're all here. I hope they all are poisoned by that water. I'm sorry. Because that is such a FU to the people who are living in East Palestine. Go move there. Go move there. Live there for a while. How about you live there? How about you raise your family there? Could be one of the biggest, I'm thinking of like the BP oil spill, obviously in the Gulf. But next to that, this could be one of the biggest toxic disasters, corporate induced toxic disasters of our lifetimes. That's what they're doing. So everyone can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. And until we see action, this is all posturing. This is all bullshit. All right. And on that fun note, I'd love to welcome to the stream, to the show, a comedian who hosts the Lady to Lady comedy podcast, and her comedy album Opinion Cave is out now. Please welcome Brandie Posey.
Hello. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Francesca. I only put 4 holes into my wall right off screen in your opening. Yeah, it's infuriating because it's like, yeah, you sipped a little bit of water once. It's how about over time, every day, over the course of life, like for weeks and months on end, and then maybe it might affect you a little bit more. I don't know.
Yep. Fill your dog's bowl with that water and have them drink it every day.
Yeah, exactly. It's so disgusting, and it's just everybody being like, how could this have happened? And you're like, it was a duh, because you have to regulate them into doing it.
Definitely a duh. Most duh.
Yeah. The answer should be like regulate them or nationalize them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know what to say.
I
Like,
mean, but I mean, this whole thing, it's like,
all of it.
Honestly, how many karmic chances do you get before like you just get like the universe gives up on you and is like black hole, like,
Yeah.
like
We're about to find out. I think
we're super about to find out. I just love it because it's like it just puts a nail in the coffin of all libertarian, we need to shut down the government inclinations that the current Republican Party is under, right? And it's just like, as well as the Democratic Party. I mean, they're all neoliberals. We sadly only call Democrats neoliberals, but they all believe in neoliberal economics of zero regulation. Anywho, Brandie, what are you bitching about today?
Okay. So my bitch this week, over the weekend, it's been raining in Los Angeles. And
yes,
I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of the beautiful eagles. There's 2 bald eagles in Eagle Rock that are in Big Bear that have 2 eggs that they've been laying on and hatching, but because of the storms, they've been getting hit with snow, and they've survived and they're doing great. It's a great, beautiful live stream. friendsofbigbearvalley.org. Go check it out.
Ooh.
My bitch is they've had to shut down the comment section because
oh God,
people try to tell eagles how to eagle, and this is people are in this comment section because they'll leave to go get a fish, and the eggs will be unattended for a few minutes in the snow, and then people will be screaming at these eagles, how dare you, your eggs aren't going to hatch. And do you know how to be an eagle? Maybe the eagles know how to be an eagle better than you do, Pam.
If anyone knows how to be an eagle, it's definitely an internet comment section. Not this comment section, because everyone's tight here. But like, no,
Yes,
the internet is trash and will be like, actually, you're sitting on your egg wrong.
Yes, I'm just and so there's two eagles. There's two eagles. They're a couple. Their names are Jackie and Shadow, which
Love it.
also named by two very different people. But also Jackie, the lady eagle, she gets a lot of flack if she leaves for too long. But the second Shadow shows up, people are like, "He's such a good dad." And I'm like, how?
Oh my god!
How are we putting this on eagles? Oh my god!
I blame Disney, dude. They should have never made animals have like human feelings. They should never grafted that onto us.
Wild. It's wild to me
or
how
us
people,
onto them.
yeah. People are just putting their shit onto these eagles. And I'm like, I'm sorry that your husband doesn't pay child support.
Yes.
Shadow is a male eagle. These two things are not related. I don't know.
We do that to everything. Like I do that to my own kid where my like the baby where it's like, "Oh, I think the baby like is feeling like she wants to be more active today and get out of the house." And it's like, "No, you don't know that actually. That's just you and what you want to do." Like grafting it onto your baby and your kid. You're like, "I think the baby would rather wear blue today because there's been a lot of pink." Like, shut up, like it's the same thing we do to everything. And the internet's so good. That's so fucking
It's truly
funny.
wild. So there's a woman named Sandy every day who does a big recap of what happened with the Eagles that day. Bless Sandy. And last week she had to end one of her summaries with this quote: "While it may be difficult, your worry, frustration, and negative comments do not help either you or the Eagles. Please hold a place of trust for Jackie and Shadow and Mother Nature that they may know more than we do and know what they are doing."
Oh
like,
my God. That
matter with people.
God damn it. I was trying to pitch a podcast that was basically a version of like all the internet outrage in the small little ways that we like. And this is such a perfect story for that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. Because of course we're gonna ruin an eagle.
Yes.
We'll
Beautiful
see what
live
happens.
stream.
Yeah.
If these eggs don't hatch, they're canceling Jackie. That's all I'm saying. Jackie will be canceled. And I'm like, and she won't know because she's an eagle living her life who doesn't know what the internet is. Just having a beautiful time in a tree.
She knows what she did.
How could
I hope she exposes her genitals to everybody.
I hope so too.
And then headlines in Vegas. All right. That was such a good thing to bitch about, and I will check out that stream as soon as this is done. But we have fun. No, we've got a lot to get to. There is no weekly roundup because Mama Tai Tai and didn't get to it. However, we got some good stories. This is the week where. New study dropped that says that, hey, working only 4 days a week instead of 5 is actually more productive and more lucrative for everyone. That's right, you guys. This happened in the UK. And let's discuss. It was led by the University of Cambridge and Boston College, along with research organization Autonomy and campaigners at 4 Day Week Global. 2,900 employees involved, and it was 6 months, range of industries, including finance, advertising, healthcare, construction. And guess what? It bore fruit. 60% of workers said it was easier to balance work and responsibilities at home, while 73% reported increased satisfaction with their lives. Fatigue was down. People were sleeping more. Companies, they implemented this in any way they saw fit, but most popularly, they gave Friday off, so 32 weeks, but the same pay. The researchers also found that fewer workers quit or took sick days during this period versus the same time as the year before. And of the 23 companies that shared sales numbers, on average, these businesses saw get this, 35% jump in revenue compared to the same period in 2021. Wow. It's not clear, however, whether these results are directly impacted by the change to the 4-day work week, but lo and behold, there was more money. And again, 71% of employees said they had reduced level of burnout. 39% said they were less stressed. One person interviewed by a researcher said they no longer had any Sunday dread, referring to the anxiety felt before a new week. Yeah, that used to be a daily dread for me when I had to go into the office.
No, Sunday scaries are real, and it's hard because it also, like, at least for me, it would just force me to stay up super late because I just didn't want Monday to come. So I wanted as much Sunday as possible. So then you've set yourself up for failure going into the work week anyway.
Totally. You're like, I can drink after 10 tonight. That was
Yeah.
always my thing. It's like, nope, you cannot.
Exactly. You have to pass out into the new week to make it start. It's the only way it goes.
I mean, office culture's generally changed a lot, obviously, since the pandemic. And I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to go back into work. But this is just generally like, no, working less actually makes you more productive when you are working. I've always felt also that like an 8-hour workday is insane and that you only get, I think there are 4 productive hours in a day, like really productive 4 hours.
Yeah.
The rest is just kind of bullshitting around and like, squeezing each other's tushes and stuff. Do they still do that? We still do that, right?
Yes, absolutely. That unfortunately is still happening. As long as there's HR departments, we'll hear about it.
I mean, I think a lot of this is like, obviously this sounds like it's more of a, and they say that it was across industries, but I am curious as to like whether they had like fast food workers, and obviously this is the UK, so people are probably generally less worked to the actual bone.
Yeah.
But a 4-day work week for, I mean, just for anyone in like the service industry or like people who, or people whose like shifts are decided last minute, it just would be so incredible, right?
Oh, for sure. It changes everything because then it's also like you have a day to just rest, you have a day to run your errands, and you have a day to like be social and see your people in your life. Like
That's exactly right.
Imagine having that time. I mean, because whenever we do have a week that we do have like a day off, for holidays or whatever, it's always the best week. Everybody always comes back in a better mood. And you do get everything done that you need done.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. You need a whole day a week just to do your bullshit. I need that to, punt my jury summons that I just did for the second time. And of course, we're going to talk about a juror later in the show, but do your laundry, clean your fucking crap out, like whatever you need to do. That's one day. Second day, totally friends, family, socializing. And another day just to veg, just straight reset, calm. And I know we're speaking as 2 comics who are partially employed. Don't mean, who are, I'm underemployed. And so granted, we've already chosen not to necessarily burn the candle on both ends. There's drawbacks to that, major ones.
Of course. Yeah.
Buying healthcare on the marketplace in my case. But it's true. Like it's just, you don't need to work that much. We can all be healthier and happier. We were talking about health in the last episode of the show, and a 4-day work week completely falls into that. So the other interesting thing is 92% of the companies that did this pilot program said they're going to continue.
I believe it.
They would continue. Correction. They would continue. 30% saying it is a permanent change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense because also you have happier employees who feel respected by their bosses in their place of work. But it does not take much to make an employee feel valued. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're just like, all right, can you just pretend that I'm a human for a little bit? And then you will work harder for them. I mean, I remember the last time I had a day job, I worked at I was a social media person at an automotive marketing firm for years. It was the most Mad Men-y, but with car bros shit ever.
God.
And on Fridays, we always had full 5-day week, but at Fridays at 2:00, we had a little happy hour in the back where you could have a microbrew and a bag of chips, but you had to socialize and you had an hour and then you had to go finish your day. And it was nobody did anything for the rest of the day after that. It was just okay, I guess I have to stay here till 5. Also, by the end of it's so stupid. It was also by the time I left that place, I was coming in at 10:30. I was going to lunch at 12. I was then not coming back from lunch until 1:30, and I was leaving at 5:30. And I did not get in trouble because I got everything I needed to get done.
There you go. Exactly. But aren't you quiet quitting, Brandie? Wasn't that quiet quitting that you just sort of phoned it in? And shouldn't we be monitoring you? I mean, that's the whole thing is I feel like Silicon Valley fucked this whole thing up because they started branding the idea that no, we don't need to give you more time at home. We need to make office feel more like home, which actually is what they're trying to do now to get people, lure people back into the office. Like, nobody cares that you're offering all these dumb perks. It's that I don't want to hang out with my boss.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to be around my coworkers. I need like me and my family and friends time.
Yes. These are not my friends. Just because there's a Razor scooter here doesn't mean I want to be here on Friday.
Exactly. 100%. That being said, I do want to give the other side. So there is a CEO that spoke to Business Insider and gave, for Fortune magazine, and said, you warned, just like any change, it will suit some and alienate others. And the reality may be that the structure doesn't suit every employee or business model. Pierre Lindmark, founder and CEO at the management consultancy Winnipeg Temp, says. This dude's like runs workshops on how to fire people en masse. The truth is that the 4-day work week isn't for everyone. He warns that one less day at work could lead to increased anxiety and isolation as a result of having the same amount of work to do, but less time to get it done.
Bullshit, sir. Bullshit. You just want more time to fire people.
Yeah.
That's all you psychopath. Get a friend.
I mean, I guess the real thing is what I was sort of alluding to earlier is, again, what does this mean for people in the service sector? What does it mean for people who aren't salaried, who need those shifts? Like, what is that? What can their guaranteed income be? And how can we fight for that? And say you don't need to work 7 shifts a week or 6 shifts a week, 4 is fine. And I don't see it happening in this country anytime soon, but fuck, man, it's been since the early, what was it, like 18, when was it, or like I guess maybe in the early 30s, maybe that was when, why am I blanking on when Haymarket was? But like, we've been fighting. Yeah. Well, we didn't get a 5-day work week until I think the 30s, but Haymarket was before. So it's been now
this has been a 100-year fight. Yeah,
100 years since we had the 5-day work week. I think we can fucking go for 4. Like, I think it's about time.
There's a robot on Mars. You know what I mean? I think we can do what we need to do in 4 days instead of 5. I think we're capable
absolutely.
of this.
And that's the other thing is, like, actually the advent of computers, don't you think, wasn't the whole point that we would have to work less hard, that we could just chill and enjoy life? Remember life? But no, you gotta work like on the Google bus on your way to the Google campus. Anywho,
but at least you can get a cereal bar while you're there for free. So that makes up for seeing your family, I think.
It totally does. And like a haircut.
Yeah.
And a nap pod. Although, like, I'm not going to sneeze at a nap pod as someone who's like, we should. Yeah. Oh, I want one in my house. I guess that's the bed. Anywho, let's move on. So this is the week where the nation is awaiting a ruling from a Trump-appointed federal judge as to whether the abortion pill, mifepristone, is legal or not. We'll get into this case. But again, just like student loans, which are now being challenged in the courts, the right has got a litany, just a lineup of all of any progress that this country wants to make. They have a legal strategy to roll it back. So even though mifepristone has been in use for decades, it's part of half of medical abortions. Or excuse me, I believe half of abortions are medical abortions. Meaning people take the abortion pill, and mifepristone is part of that. So misoprostol and mifepristone. And let's just get into what the fuck this case is. So it boils down to, in the year 2000, the FDA approved mifepristone for medication abortion. The drug is used with misoprostol to induce what is essentially a miscarriage. In November, abortion opponents sued the agency in an effort to reverse the more than 2 decades old approval of mifepristone. So were the courts to ultimately take their side, it would be what some experts say appears to be an unprecedented situation, ordering the FDA to remove a medication from the market. Now, who are these people who are doing this? They're Alliance Defending Freedom. Isn't that fun? Just like the freedom,
yeah.
Brandie, freedom for everyone except for people with uteruses. A conservative legal group filing the lawsuit on behalf of 4 anti-abortion medical organizations and 4 doctors. The suit contends that the FDA lacked the authority to approve this drug, and it didn't adequately study the medication and the pill they're safe. Sorry, I have to read it like that. This is exactly how it should be read. So what is going to happen with this ruling and who's going to rule on it? This is very important to understand. Hang on. So the brief was last Friday, was due last Friday, and the ruling could come any moment from U.S. District Court Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk. Biden officials have indicated they will fight any ruling that restricts medication, and in fact, there are currently, I believe, 12 states are preemptively suing for, I think it may be the FDA, but they are basically suing to allow them to continue to issue and use mifepristone in medical abortion. Great. So they're trying to get out in front of it.
Yeah.
But we got to understand, and here I'm just circling around this. We got to understand this bro. This Kacsmaryk. So if there's an appeal, if this is appealed by these, by like abortion activists, people who want to save abortion, it is going to go to the Fifth Circuit before landing at the Supreme Court. Now, Eric Baptist, the senior counsel for this Americans Defending Freedom or Alliance Defending Freedom, says the group doesn't believe that it should go all the way to the nation's highest court because the facts and the law very much support our side. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
But if it did go to the Supreme Court, we know what would fucking happen.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's talk about Kacsmaryk. Hang on, I'm just going to make sure. The abortion pills lawsuit, which Kacsmaryk could rule on any day, is the latest in a long line of politically explosive cases to appear on the judge's docket. In a practice known as forum shopping, conservative groups have zeroed in on the Amarillo division of Northern District of Texas, which is where this judge operates, as a go-to place to challenge a wide range of Biden administration policies. Because Amarillo is a federal district with a single judge, plaintiffs know their arguments will be heard by Kacsmaryk, who, like any federal judge, is positioned to issue rulings with nationwide implications. And Kacsmaryk has delivered for these fools. So he ascended to the federal bench from the conservative legal group First Liberty Institute, has defended his ability to be impartial in his work as a judge, blah. Nonetheless, many of his decisions have been wins for the right, including one that struck down the new Biden administration protections for transgender people, and another that forced thousands of asylum seekers to return to Mexico while they awaited processing. So it's a set him up, knock him down. Trump appointed him. It's a small little district. They know they can funnel these cases through, and it fucks everyone in every state. And so the 12 states that might be suing will be suing Texas specifically. This is how it's like, we had Ellie Mistal on the show a couple weeks ago, and it's like he's laid this out about how, and to his credit, Biden has appointed many, many, many federal judges, but like it's too little too late.
Yeah.
We've already, just like the Supreme Court, we've been fucked on this. And we were fucked the moment Trump was elected president. Yeah. We knew we were fucked. And now we're seeing what's actually happening in practice. The FDA didn't have the authority. Don't you love, Brandie, the way that they it's like, in terms of like Roe v. Wade, it's like, it's not that I believe that women don't have the right to decide when they want to be a parent, but the Constitution, like, shut up.
Yeah.
Why are you putting this on the founders? Put it on yourself and your reactionary ass perspectives.
Yeah. Stand up, have the balls to say it, what you actually think. Just say it. You know what I mean? We all hear it coming out of your mouth. Don't make me have to think it. You say it then, if that's how you really feel about it.
Totally. Don't offload this onto the FDA. Like, oh, they didn't. No, it is. Yeah. Mifepristone is safer than Viagra. That's all you need to know about this country and patriarchy.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's disgusting. It's been the plan for decades, and they're winning, and they've executed it at every level. And it's incredibly infuriating to see like Dems doing too little too late, where, just the hubris of thinking that Trump would lose and then not doing everything you can in that vacuum to have filled these vacancies beforehand or fought them, or like I feel like there's got to be something Biden could be doing now to be like, these guys, are they real? Like, should we
Yeah.
count them as real judges? Like, take the gloves off, man. The rules have changed.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
I don't know. It's just infuriating.
it's I'm trying to, like, we've had Liz Winstead on this program,
Yeah.
who, part of the work is actually getting Joe Biden to say the word abortion.
Yeah.
To just
Yes.
say it. Like,
To
we're
say it.
beyond this. Like, we believe in choice, and if it's
Yeah.
a last resort, and like, rare, what is it? Like
Yeah.
like whatever their
Yeah,
bullshit
something rare and
terminology
blah, blah.
was,
Yeah.
to get around the fact that abortion is super normal.
Mhm.
It is normal in all cases, that most people who have an abortion already have children.
Mhm.
And so Biden made one reference to it during the State of the Union, but I, again, like you're saying, I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking for,
Yes.
look, we're a month into this new
Mhm.
session. It took a while to get in session for Congress, but
Yeah.
I know February is a short month, but let's go, baby. Let's codify this. When are we making this the law of the land? And so I will be looking. We will see if this actually is overturned, and a judge, just like the judges are doing to the student loan relief and cancellation, the debt cancellation. I am curious to see how Biden and the administration will respond to something like this.
I just would love to see them go on the offensive in some capacity, where it's just
Mhm.
like, why aren't you even just saying the fact that, like, this is not a thing that mattered to Republicans until relatively recently. Historically,
Right.
was not a thing that they gave a shit until they were like, oh, evangelicals, we're going to need this to actually get anything in a party. Like, it was not a thing that they gave a shit about
Right.
for most of the history of the United States. It's like, why aren't you saying this stuff? Why aren't you calling it out and making them answer?
Or all the abortions that Republicans
that they have
paid for.
Yeah.
Exactly, and have had.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the Oppo research on this stuff? Like, put it out there. Gloves off.
Totally. Absolutely. Let's haul back Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
Let's bring it. I mean, it is very funny because I'm always reminded of, like, the move that do you remember when Trump pulled all the women who had accused Bill Clinton of sexual harassment in front of the camera, like, a few weeks before the election? I was like, damn.
Yes.
Damn.
No, absolutely. Like, damn, but also kind of respect the game.
Kind of respect that gangster. That's super gang. Yeah, that's how you win.
The rules. That's the rules. That's where we're at. It's like Democrats' ability to let fascism just slowly happen because they just want to be polite is what will actually get us all killed.
Right.
And
I want Herschel. Absolutely. I want Herschel Walker, all of the women who came forward to said that he paid for their abortions.
Yes.
Herschel, we're not done with you, Walker. We're not done. Let's hear from them. Let's talk. Let's hold Lindsey Graham to account when he propped up your campaign. Is he still against abortion? What do you think about that? Anyway.
No, exactly. If you are if you're a paralegal that knows anybody that works for any of these judges of any level, district up to the Supreme Court, and you have anything on them, release it.
Yes.
Just put it out. Because, whatever. We should be burning it down at every moment because that's what they're doing. And the decorum will not get us anywhere. It's just not going to.
That's exactly right. All right. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our sitch. Speaking about what is going on in Iran, the social movement, the uprising from September, checking in on the state of it and what we're learning, what's going on the ground, and what does this mean sort of for internationally too, right? Any hopes of maybe U.S.-Iran easing tensions? Not sure. But Negar Mortavazi is here. Hi, an award-winning journalist and political commentator, editor and host of the Iran podcast, based in Washington, D.C., who's been covering Iranian and Middle Eastern affairs, as well as U.S. foreign policy toward the Middle East for over a decade. Negar, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you both.
Yes, good to have you here. I we haven't spoken a lot about this since the murder of Mahsa Amini back in September. And since then, there has been an intense crackdown on dissent. The state has come down in terms of disappearances, murders, executions, and repression. So tell us what's going on now and what your sense of the situation on the ground is for those who have not been following.
Sure. So let me give a recap and then I'll talk about now. In September, as most of your viewers probably know, a young Kurdish woman by the name of Mahsa Jina Amini was visiting from a small town in the Kurdish region. She was visiting Tehran, the capital, with her family. She gets arrested outside a metro for wearing improper hijab, taken to custody of the quote-unquote morality police, or literally the guidance patrol, as they call themselves, Gasht Ershad, and dies in their custody, essentially murdered. And then the state immediately starts to reject the fact that this was essentially a death and murder or a murder in their custody, put out these alternative stories that she had underlying health conditions, which her family has denied. And to refute essentially violence by this morality police, which has been documented and witnessed by many, many women over the past years. And so we saw an eruption of protests, initially against the morality police hijab, and then with very basically radical slogans against the entirety of the system, and no to the ruling elite, to the entirety of the Islamic Republic in the past few months.
Yeah.
With women and young girls leading these protests, essentially a feminist uprising, and with people risking their lives when they go to the streets to protest. So far, human rights organizations have documented over 500 protesters killed. Thousands were arrested. A number of them have been released. At least 4 protesters were executed by the state in very fast sham trials, again, as human rights organizations have called it. And basically, the state has used an iron fist to repress and to crack down on these women-led protests. And they have slowed down as far as the number of people we see on the street, but they also continue in other forms of civil disobedience and defiance. Just this week, my friend Farnas Fassi had a report out in the New York Times about how women are increasingly showing up in public without the hijab, even in official settings, which is essentially a defiance of the law and the reason why Mahsa Amini is dead now. So the dissent continues. The anger, the grievances, the opposition, the protest, but the state has also really used violence and brutality to crack down on many of these protesters.
Yeah, and I think it's incredible though. In the beginning, right? There seemed to be like the Republic was scared that there was a little bit of fear because the protests were really catching on, like you said, led by women, but truly, and about this issue, but truly became about everything, became about the government as a whole, right? And the iron fist in just generally living your life. So initially I remember, and I'm not sure if this held, that the morality police, so-called, was disbanded. Did that stay? Did that stick? And has anything actually shifted, or is it just been pure repression?
So that was sort of a complex news that came out of Iran, with the judiciary figures saying there is no morality police because it had been rebranded recently and sort of restructured under which force it goes. And protesters had been reporting seeing less of this morality police because they were seeing riot gear and riot forces. So
right.
Police were out in like arms and full riot gear to essentially crack down on the protests. But what's important, regardless of whether the morality police or this guidance patrol is around or not, or how long that will hold, they're trying to enforce it in other forms. So you would get an alert on your phone, a threatening SMS that you had been driving on the street without your hijab on, so here's a fine for you. If you're a businesses had been closed or threatened to be closed, if they had employees without the hijab, or worse, if they served customers. There's a case of a bank, now drugstores. So the state has also these other sort of tools in our toolbox to enforce this mandatory hijab law, even if it's not necessarily through the morality police. It's also with the weather. Usually people report seeing more of this morality police during the summer, where women naturally wear less clothes, and as it gets colder in the winter, women put on bigger coats, you see less of that. So there's multiple different factors, but they haven't backed down, meaning the state hasn't really backed down, and they've doubled down and really just responded to these protests with violence and with brutality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess my question is, in terms of like political leadership, right? Like, what are the openings when it comes to whether this is trickling, the uprising is actually touching the republic at all? I mean, I am assuming there's no, I mean, this is a country without opposition, without, like a democratic elections. So who is allowed to take up the mantle of leadership without getting, assassinated, if at all? Are there any openings there, or is this just, no, this is about, a latent Arab Spring that is coming to Iran? I mean, it has before with the Green Revolution and so on. And I know this is part of a long history of struggle, but yeah, I guess I'm just asking, like, where do you think this movement energy now goes?
So you mentioned the Green Movement back in 2009. The top leaders of that movement have been in house arrest since then. Also, leaders of the opposition outside the country live in exile. They can't travel back to Iran. So like you're saying, there isn't really a vibrant and, official opposition inside the country. And many figures, social, political figures who show any form of leadership, many women, Nasrin Sotoudeh, Narges Mohammadi, are also either in prison or get constantly threatened for showing this kind of leadership of the movement. So, it's very difficult to say. The state has shown very little flexibility, but at the same time, the reaction to the protests, as you're saying, indicates their fear of these protesters. They're clearly dealing with a crisis of legitimacy.
Yeah.
Whether that crisis of legitimacy, meaning people or a big part of the society not wanting them, would that translate into a crisis of an existential crisis? That's hard to say, because the state also has a monopoly on arms, on power, on violence. These protesters go out with bare hands. They essentially put their lives on the line, their bodies, and they're met with various different levels of force and violence. But the legitimacy crisis is serious. Even when I hear from a lot of sources and people I speak to on the ground, when they can't go on the street, when the street gets too dangerous, people start chanting from the rooftops, or they go out on the balcony at night chanting "Death to the dictator" or "No to the Islamic Republic." So the defiance remains, the grievances remain, dissent remains, but how it can be portrayed and seen, especially by us from the outside, is different. But the state also definitely does feel that they have a legitimacy crisis at hand. And I also want to reiterate, the morality police or this mandatory hijab law is not only about the covering. Yes, the dress code is the most up forward and visible sign of it, but women also are treated unequally in many other aspects when it comes to the state and law, in marriage, in divorce, child custody, even in the workplace. So they're dealing with these levels of discrimination in their private and professional life. And essentially, this is a continuation of a century-long struggle of vibrant women's movement that has been standing up not just to this state and this issue of politics, but also core roots of patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know reports, sort of suspicious poisonings of schoolgirls trying to just get an education, and they have been fallen ill. Do we know what's going on in that with that?
Well, it's been reported in multiple schools, and essentially they were trying to say that it's an accident, but it just kept recurring. And just today, I saw reporting by some officials. There was a conversation in the parliament by some officials that's suggesting that it's being done deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very clear who is doing it. Obviously, if it's happening in girls' schools, it's forces, fundamentalists, possibly forces that have a problem with girls being in school, getting an education.
Yeah.
It's also important to note that women and girls, meaning school children, high schoolers, some even younger, have been a part of the force leading this feminist uprising. So it's all part of that big package, again, as I said, of this state-sanctioned discrimination, patriarchy that's gotten really violent, trying to put women in their place, who dare to speak up, who dare to protest, who dare to dress as they like, and who dare to get an education.
I guess I wanted to ask because even though it is this is the hand and the work of a very patriarchal state, anti-democratic patriarchal state. You're saying, like you've been saying, this is more than just, this is a feminist movement that many people have been involved in. So men have also been, very active and in solidarity with the women, which I think is just shows you how out of step the Islamic Republic is with their own people, number one. But also I think it's surprising and inspiring for the world at large to see that this is a feminist uprising that it has so many people involved in it, that it isn't just the women on their own.
Certainly, women and allies, I should say. Women, girls, and allies. Obviously, women and girls were the ones leading it. The spark of the protest is a women's rights issue, is a woman who died or was murdered in custody because of how she was dressed. And many other women identified with that because that's how they dress when they go out and about with their lives. But definitely women and allies. And we've seen an intersectional community of protesters. So Maximillien was a Kurdish woman, belonged to an ethnic religious minority in an impoverished area of Iran. They have many of their own grievances against the central government, and the protests essentially broke out initially in her hometown of Saqqez and across the Kurdish region of Iran. In Baluchistan, again, another ethnic minority, there has been ongoing protests. Even when you don't see as many people out in big cities in Baluchistan and Kurdistan, protests have continued. And we've seen an intersectional community of university students, teachers, nurses, laborers, oil workers went on strike. So many different segments of the society bringing their own grievances, but also overlapping in their resistance to the current political, economic, and social structure.
We need some of that here. Like we need like if the women of Iran can do this, then the women of the United States sure as shit need to do this. We're as we face our own religious right as well, trying to police our bodies. I guess I wanted to turn to the geopolitics of this, right? I think that something that has been surprising and upsetting, disappointing to me is that while Biden as vice president did have a very important role to play in the Iran deal under Obama, that now as president has failed to, I guess, jumpstart discussions or talks. And it seems like the agreement is dead. And I think just this week, Iran saying that they are now enriching uranium to the point where they can be used for weapons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it all gets worse and worse and worse as the hardliners in both the United States and this country. Because I always try to remind people, obviously, number one, people aren't their governments. And number two, our religious crazies that are in control are also replicated around the world. And when they, and all of them around the world are in it basically so that we can just be at the brink of war and at each other's throats. And they love that. That's super good for them politically, internally. But I guess wanted to ask you on how can the United States, or should the United States, or screw the government, how can Americans, individuals, be in solidarity at this moment or help ease this situation?
Well, one thing protesters and activists on the ground constantly say is to be their voice, to shed light like you're doing on this issue, to not forget that this feminist or this uprising is happening in their own little corner of the world and feel like they're forgotten. And also, there has been steps that the U.S. government has taken, some positive steps. For example, getting out of the way of internet connectivity. Some U.S. sanctions, believe it or not, actually hindered access to the internet, while the Iranian state also itself censored and blocks and filtered internet. So the U.S. issued what's called these guidances, essentially for tech companies to say it's okay for you to provide these services to Iranians that would otherwise not have access to. Also, another thing activists ask for in human rights organizations is to highlight and sort of designate or put sanctions on human rights abusers. So instead of broad economic sanctions that are mainly pressuring the Iranian working and middle class, these targeted sanctions or asset blocking of individuals who are violators of human rights that the US has done some, the European countries have followed, Canadians have done, but that's just something that activists have been asking for. But when it comes to the nuclear program, with the US itself, this is under President Obama, finally decided that it needs to be resolved through diplomacy. So right now, with the lack of that diplomacy, that nuclear diplomacy, and when we talk about nuclear diplomacy, the Iranians are just escalating the nuclear program back there. It's all consolidated by the hardliners, as you said, the right-wing conservative hardliners who have the administration, the parliament, and the overall political structure in hand. And they're making a shift to the east, to being allies with Russia, supporting Russia, participating in a way in the attack on Ukraine, and escalating the nuclear program in the lack of diplomacy. So I don't know what the strategy or the plan of the Biden administration is, but it hasn't worked in the past 2 years. So if the plan is to prevent and not yet another country from obtaining a nuclear weapon, then I guess there needs to be a change in that strategy. But when it comes to the people, there's also very limited Americans can do. As an ordinary American, you can't, for example, send help to your friend in Iran in the form of financial help because of sanctions. You can't donate, because people constantly ask me, okay, which are the NGOs we can donate to? There are no NGOs in Iran you can donate to legally because of US sanctions. So maybe that's also another request that, okay, while you put pressure on the government, on the abusers, why don't you open routes where we can safely donate to NGOs or individuals on the ground, or in the form of family remittance?
I mean, speaking of tech, is something like Venmo is not available.
Oh no, definitely not. Even if Francesca, if I Venmo you today for, let's say, a lunch we had together that happened to be Iranian food in Virginia, that transaction can be blocked. It's happened to me. Just the word Iran. So that's how overzealous these sanctions around Iran are, and there needs to be more opening for people-to-people connections and help that the government has to do. And also, I wanted to mention a couple of journalists. These are also happen to be women in Iran who initially broke the story of Mahsa Amini. One of them rushed to the hospital when Mahsa Amini was in a coma, and the other one covered her funeral in her hometown. Nilufar Hamedi and Elahe Mohammadi, who were arrested for doing their work, for being journalists, and were accused of all kinds of espionage, spying, and other accusations, months and months in prison, some in solitary doing interrogations, and dozens of other journalists, photojournalists who were arrested for covering or shedding light on these protests. But mainly, as it happens, these two young women, Nilufar Hamedi and Elahe Mohammadi, are the ones who really paid a big price for covering the story of Mahsa Amini.
Yeah, no, I mean, and part of that information crackdown, and it has, I know, impacted you as well, and just your ability to speak about the issue, but also even to return to your country. That's not on the table.
Yes, definitely. As I told you before the show, I don't enjoy talking about myself as part of the story, but unfortunately, women journalists, even outside the country in the diaspora, have become part of the story, especially in the past few months. We have the pressure on us by the regime, having to live in exile, covering the country from a distance because it's not safe for us to return there. Our families have been harassed by the regime for the work we're doing. And then some, radical forces or opposition forces also have been attacking us, harassing us, smearing us for doing our work as journalists, for bringing nuance to the story, for essentially being objective and professional and trying to give voice to those women. So it's been a tough few months with death threats, rape threats, doxing of personal information, and even a bomb threat. I had a panel speaking at the University of Chicago, and a bomb threat was sent to that university to try to get the panel canceled. So it's just been really horrific, even for some of us in the diaspora, but obviously much worse for women in Iran who are actually sitting or have been sitting in prison for doing journalism.
Right. And I love how authoritarians have opened this new channel on the internet too, where they like basically pay for crazy troll armies, you know, to harass anyone speaking out on the issue.
Yes, let me give a shout out to Elon Musk, actually, because after the takeover of Twitter, that has just gotten so bad. I mean, it was bad, but it's just gotten worse. And I haven't tweeted in weeks, if not months. I know other women who just don't feel safe enough on Twitter that they've either closed their accounts or have stopped, being active there. And you see some of these abusers being reinstated on Twitter for violations they've committed in the past. So it's at least that one platform is getting much worse, and the other ones are also not doing great.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to think about like our country's, like the United States' own problems in that context. But then, yes, thinking about just the world over and the ways that misinformation and harassment and doxing and all that, this is life or death. I mean, it truly is. And that kind of a platform having these folks on there is just, it's the worst. It's just enabling all the fascists and authoritarians. So anyway, anywho, no, Negar, it's really nice to get this download from you. And I is there anything else that you want to add or that people should know about?
Well, I forgot to mention that the main slogan of this protest, I just want to say that again and again, is woman, life, freedom. It's such a simple, but I think progressive and forward-looking protest. 3 simple words: woman, life, freedom. They say it in Farsi, zan, zendegi, azadi. They say it in Kurdish, jen, jian, azadi. And it's just, I think, this simplicity of what their demands are, that they want equality for women, they want a better life, and they also want freedom. And it's just, I think it's a beautiful moment that's happened in Iran, despite the crackdown, the violence, the brutality, but it's just a very beautiful and very courageous thing to watch when we watch these young women and girls and their allies standing up to an authoritarian patriarchal system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sadly, if there was a movement in this country whose slogan was woman, life, freedom, you can bet it would be an anti-abortion organization. We believe in women's freedom and life. Do you? I feel like I don't want to fuck with you. No. But yes, returning to what those words actually mean, I feel it deep. And thank you so much for breaking it down. Thanks for being on the show. And also, you're the host of the Iran podcast. If people want to dive deep and get more information, is that a weekly or how can people? Is that a limited series, or what are we working with here?
It was a weekly podcast. It's been on pause as we're restarting or relaunching the new series or the new season this year. I think next month. But no, it's certainly going to be out there with some also episodes about women, life, freedom, and this movement. But thanks for mentioning the Iran podcast, available on all major podcast platforms in audio.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Negar Mortavazi, thank you so much. I'm Mortavazi. I'm sorry that I'm butchering your last name. And and it's been such a pleasure, but take very, very good care and come back and we'll talk again soon on all this.
Thanks so much. It's great to see you, Francesca, Brandie. Thank you both, and hope to be back again.
Hell yeah. And Brandie, we have one more little segment.
Just bring it on.
Man, see, that's the thing. Like talking about the shit,
just seeing the solidarity that like another country is to see what they are capable of in the face of all of that it's it's so horrifying, but so inspiring too.
Yeah.
And just like the bravery is, you know, it's you want to be able to do everything you can to help.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yet I think it's such a successful, what happens with any
Mhm.
issue, if you speak out about it too much, and
Mhm.
as Nagar was saying, like, you get trolled incessantly. And so
Yeah.
at what point do you give up? You know what I mean? I think that's a
Yeah.
strategy, is to be like, well, every time I talk about this issue, there's all these haters, and I hate it. It's
Mhm.
bad. And then they win, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so it's very difficult, especially on an issue that people don't really know that much about. I mean,
Mhm.
myself included, where it's like, well, I don't know every single in and out.
Of
And
course.
it's the same thing with like Israel Palestine, where like you're always told, like, well, unless you know literally every piece of cord that was or
Yeah.
was not, signed or failed, and or
Mhm.
like, then you can't speak out about Palestinian human rights. Like, then you have
Yeah.
no leg to stand on, and you get sort of trolled into submission and silence.
Yeah.
So it's so important that people don't do
Mhm.
that. Just a few comments. The OG Mountain Dragon saying, sad that most outlets don't cover this anymore. True.
Yeah.
Dan Bifano says, tear down the global patriarchy. Indeed.
Absolutely.
Brandie Nuance on Twitch says, if they rebranded, are they still the morality police? Is that like the Scorpion unit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh,
Ding
eh,
ding.
That's exactly right. They're going to come
Yeah.
back as like, what are they going to come back as? Just like the Bobcat unit.
Yeah, exactly. The Howlin' Wolves.
Mm-hmm. The Katesh on YouTube says the right wants this in the United States. Absolutely. I mean, we're not far away from that, right? Like, we're not
Yeah, we're
far
not.
from policing what people are wearing, and who you're hanging out with,
Mhm.
getting a citation for being like 3 women talking on a street without a male present, that kind of shit. Let's
Yeah, we're not
see.
far. We're not far from it at all. People need to understand how much we have in common with
I
what's
mean,
going
this
on.
is like, I did a story on El Salvador. I've talked about this a lot, but on El Salvador criminalizing miscarriages.
Mhm.
Women who've had miscarriages wake up in handcuffs in a hospital because the rights of the unborn are enshrined in their constitution, which of course the right in this country wants to do.
Mhm.
And so then they get charged with homicide. And when I did it in 2016, it was like, this is never gonna,
Oh,
just
yeah. Few
wait.
years.
Just
Yeah.
wait a few years, and it's coming, because this, I believe, Oklahoma. I might be wrong. Maybe it's one of the O's. Definitely not
Mhm.
Oregon. But
Yeah.
the idea that charging people with homicide if they do have an abortion, and that's coming. And then Bad Lefty on YouTube, why sanctions act as a collective punishment and hand more power to the powerful. Yeah, look at Kim
Yeah.
Jong-un. That dude is not starving. That's all I have to say about that.
Boom.
And finally, we have one more segment, guys, and we're calling it. Well, no, let me set it up first. Let me. So we sometimes do a segment on the show called the Cringies, where we have like 3 different videos of people who did something incredibly cringe this week,
Okay.
and there was just such a runaway winner, Brandie, that I was like, we need to just give her
Ooh.
her due.
I'm excited to meet a queen, a cringe
Yeah,
queen.
honestly, a cringe queen coming at you. Her name is Emily Kors, and she was a 4-person on the Georgia grand jury. So I believe that means like kind of a spokesperson, a
Mhm.
4-person, or maybe they're all, I don't know, y'all, if you know what,
I think
I
that's
should
the
know this.
person that reads or that like is like the speaker for the jury. Like they're the one that's like, here's the paper for the judge or whatever.
Right.
If movies have taught me anything, I think that's who that person is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, was she the 4-person because she was the most compelling among them, or was she the 4-person because she was the first person to raise her hand and go like, ooh, 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 please, please.
Probably that. Probably that.
Yeah, I'll let
We'll see.
everyone decide. I'll let you decide when you listen to this and
Oh
watch
boy.
this. So as we know, okay, this grand jury has been investigating whether or not Trump and his lackeys basically tried to rig the election after the fact in Georgia, trying to find what it was, 11,700 votes or whatever he needed. And their report is in. They were tasked to present this report with suggested indictments or not to the district attorney. They've done this, and they, again, grand juries are made up of lay people, and you'll see just how lay this person is. Here is Emily Kors. We're going to stop and start as we can talk. Here she is.
Talking about multiple people.
Yes.
And sorry, let me just set it up. She is talking about sort of cagily answering what is in this report, what have been the suggestions. This is NBC Nightly News.
And so we're talking about multiple people.
Yes.
How
I will
long,
say
how many
multiple
people? Was this a long list?
It's not a short list.
So we're talking about more than a dozen people?
I would say that. Yes.
Okay, first of all, she's got like a little bit of foam in the corner of
She's like a Lena Dunham character study is what she feels like. I feel like this is just
right. This is girls does grand jury. Like,
yeah, that's like what it feels like. It just feels very
now, Brandie, I know how old she is, but how old do you think she is?
in her soul. I mean, okay, she's got the mannerisms of like a 48-year-old woman, but I believe she's probably like 23.
She's I mean, basically right in the middle there. She's 30.
Oh, okay.
But
Got it.
For like, and I say this with all due respect
Yeah.
to people with cat lady. Actually, this is more than cat lady vibe. This is like,
Yes.
I have iguanas, you know?
No, this is a snake bitch. This feels
just so awkward and weird. I would say that.
Yeah.
Yes. And really excited about her responsibilities. And we will see how excited she is. Let's keep going.
Are these recognizable names that people would know?
There are certainly names that you would recognize. Yes. There definitely are some names that you expect.
Did the grand jury recommend an indictment of former President Trump?
I'm not going to speak on exact indictments.
Oh my god.
Okay, look at that. Okay, so
Oh,
she
little
says-
face.
she says that. And if you're listening as a podcast, she then scrunches the entire bottom of her face and is like, but we totally did it. It suggested he be indicted.
Oh my god. This is ugh.
We
Oh god.
suggested- Look, no.
She's like if a Keebler elf had arsenic. Like that's her.
We might even you know what's so funny about this? And I look, as someone who wants to see Trump fall and like just burn into a million pieces. He's doing it on his own, right?
Yes.
But it is just so funny to me that in a time of like again, cringe resistance libs that are
Yes.
like, once Trump goes away, all of our problems are gone. That like, this is like the face of the jury that's gonna like, you know, fucking finger him.
Yeah,
No.
No.
I mean, it's such a letdown if you're like a
No.
resistance lib, you know?
Yeah. No, exactly.
So sad.
Oh,
Anyway,
God.
okay, there's a little bit more. She talks about how she actually wanted to swear Trump in if there was an indictment.
Would we be surprised? Are there bombshells of who is
I
being
don't
recommended for indictment?
I don't think that there are any giant plot twists coming.
So nothing that would surprise people who have been following this.
Probably not.
Oh my god! Oh! This is like, hey, what happened to that chick in high school
Yeah.
who, you know, I was saying before the show to Paige, like sort of wore overalls, but too late in life and not as like a bring back, like not as like a
Yes.
nostalgic throwback. I'm wearing all, but like you're wearing corduroy overalls. Are you 10, but you're 17? You know, that kind of vibe.
Yeah. No, this girl, like, she's got a real like doesn't have scoliosis, but uses scoliosis as an excuse in gym class. Like that's
Right. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Very, very like I wear headgear to like, but like as a fashion statement.
Yeah, exactly. Like she didn't put her hair back in shop class and got a chunk ripped out. Like that's like very I don't know how to use my hands.
It's so fucked up to troll someone like it's
I
so
know.
fucked up to comment about this, but also, honey, stop. You know
No,
what I
stop.
mean? Like
Yes.
people need to tell you honestly, like just
Yes.
don't. you know?
Speak from your fucking like lady balls. Like I want to hear what you have. Just
look at the interviewer and speak from your lady balls, please.
Yes, stop perching. I know you're sitting, but it feels like you're perching.
Okay, there's more.
I wouldn't want to characterize anyone else's reaction, of course, but so that was when we heard a lot in testimony. But probably not. It probably wouldn't shock you. I would not expect you to be too shocked, no.
And that includes of the former president, potentially.
Potentially, it might. There were a lot of people that we could have subpoenaed, and there are a lot of people that we honestly like might have subpoenaed, but there was also, I don't know, partially the time factor. When someone, like for example, goes before the January 6th committee and says they plead the fifth 200 times, do you really expect them to come before you and say something different?
Well, that was cogent and smart.
Yes, I'll give her that. I do wish that Alex Jones had to meet this person, though. I would love the idea of them in the room together.
She needs to be on Rogan immediately.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Did you personally want to hear from the former president?
I wanted to hear from the former president, but honestly, I kind of wanted to subpoena the former president because I got to swear everybody in. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get 60 seconds with President Trump of me looking at him and being like, do you solemnly swear? And me getting to swear him in. I kind of just thought that would be an awesome moment.
And
guys, they let anyone onto juries, all right? This is a jury of your peers. So there is a little Emily Kors, there's a little just cringe ass, not even twee chick in all of us.
Yeah. The fate
and
sits
I
in their
just
hands.
punted my summons. I was just like, look, I have a baby. I don't want to do this right now. But now, Brandie, I'm regretting that. And I'm like, I must stand up because God damn it.
Yeah.
I can hold eye contact and Emily Kors cannot.
I know. It's I'm surprised she didn't just grab a balloon and fly away at the end of the interview. Just feels like how she should exit. Like, all right, toodaloo. And then she does a spin and disappears into dust.
She definitely curtsies after like everything, right? Like she hopped off the little stool and was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, oh God. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, the case is going great. I'm sure it'll be, I would be very afraid if I were Roger Stone and Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump. Very, very afraid.
At the very least, you want the foreman to be somebody that could get laid at Comic-Con. Sorry, I'm being so mean. It's just very fun.
But also, like, it's the most nobody wanted to do this energy. Like, it's just the like, and so she just volunteered again. The ooh, pick me. And like, what are you gonna do? You can't all like make eyes and be like, I don't really want her to present for the team like, but she wants to do it so bad. And this is it's a fucking book report, and I don't want to do it. Yeah. It's a group project. She's group project energy. Like, I'll do all the work in the group project.
Yes, just because you did not get cast in Oliver does not mean that you should be the foreman on a jury, though.
Totally. And you're like, you'll let her do the work, but should you have let her do the work?
Yeah.
Anyway, very funny, super cringe. Like, no disrespect, but also a little bit of disrespect. I just like also a little bit of like, buy a vibrator. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes. Yes. I will buy one for you. Hit me up on Twitter. I will dealer's choice. I just actually, you know what? No, I will pick it because I don't trust you to not pick a Harry Potter wand or some shit. I don't need this Hufflepuff ass bitch up in here. Come on, honey. Like,
you definitely don't trust her to pick out her own vibrator. That's for sure.
No,
she's gonna be, I'll get the one with 1-star review. Hell yeah. Just because I wanted to like help it, because it didn't get any love.
What if I just put this cat toy up my pussy? Would I do the same thing? Because then we get both my wee.
I'll get you, Donald Trump. After I swear you in, you have to look at me and tell the truth, but I can only maintain eye contact for 3 seconds. So.
I mean, to be fair, Donald Trump having to speak to that person would be punishment. but
Oh my God.
he would be
Such good television.
It'd be really good TV. It'd be really
so
good.
good. See, like, why is it always the Cash Me Outside women and who get like their shows or like Honey Boo Boo, like, you know, the people who like are so incredibly camera friendly and so like, what about the people who are actually allergic to the camera? Like, when did they get their time?
It's a good question.
All right, we have to end it there. This has been so much fun, and I hope Brandie can join me for the bonus. We're talking about hell yeah, we're talking about Dilbert and the cartoonist who just canceled himself. And we'll look at what he said exactly. But Brandie, where can people find you and follow your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brandazzle, BrandiePosey.com. I tour all over the place, so find me on my website and my Twitter and my Instagram, especially Instagram. And I'll be in the Midwest in April. I'm all over the country this year, so come find me.
Amazing.
Would love to meet you.
Hell yeah. All right, we'll see you in the bonus, Brandie. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for being here, for all of your comments. A lot of people, a lot of love for Brandie over in the comments. Wait, oh my God. Thank you for your super chats. We got Rock and Roll Forever trying to recruit me for president, vice president, Idarola Fiorentini 2024. First of all, I'm not a running mate, okay? I definitely am top of the ticket. Fiorentini, whole thing, whole name. Seafish on YouTube. This is legit my favorite podcast. Such amazing guests, I think you say. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Martin on YouTube, just like when Montgomery Burns tried to eat the three-eyed fish. Yes. The Simpsons is always right. Like, it all just comes back to The Simpsons. Everything is a Simpsons episode. Oh my God. And like D. Hubert said, Obama and Flint. That it's just constant. Bad lefty, but big Flint energy. And Tim Newman on YouTube, nationalization of the rail infrastructure is a much needed move. The trucking industry runs on public roads and airlines are under federal flight control. Railroads need to be too. Agreed. Brandie nuance on some Eagle knowledge. Did you know Jackie had a dude before Shadow though? No joke. What? Let me find out. Quesadilla 79 on Twitch says my union job got us a 4 10-hour shifts and 3 days off. That's pretty good. That's that's a little more than I would like to work. Again, people need to take a load off. Jeff Purty, thank you so much for the super chat. Really, really appreciate it. And Bad Lefty Haymarket was on May 4th, 1886. Thank you. I knew it was sort of close to the turn of the century. But it wasn't for another 50 years, I think, or so, that we actually got the 5-hour work week and 8-hour work day, which is what they were fighting for. Bad Lefty also, Bitchuation Room's new schedule has made my Sundays a little longer. No shade. Look, you're going to have a Friday show. Martin says, I got an invite to participate on a grand jury. Can't decide if I want to. Any thoughts? I say yes. After what we just saw, absolutely yes. It's our civic duty, I think, but you don't get paid. I don't even think grand juries get paid. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that regular jury duty, you don't get paid. I think there's free coffee. I also think some jobs give you time off if you have jury duty. But anywho, that has been our show, y'all. And with that, of course, we need Lay Fart song. Thank you to all the patrons at $10 or more, which gets you this shout out. To Brennan Monat, welcome to the Frantifa. Thank you so much. To Kevin O'Neill, upping your pledge. Kevin, crushing it. Thank you. To the big tippers, Robert Gilbert. Thank you so much, Robert. You are such a sweetheart. That fart's for you. Marcus Aurelius 75 on Twitch. Resubscribe for 1 month at tier 1. Subscribe for 10 months. What up? Willie Gus cheering 100 bits. Thank you so much. Punch Up Dragon resubscribing with Prime. Subscribe for 7 months. Calm Like a Bomb resubscribing for 1 month at tier 1. 10 months subscribed. Bellator Phantasma Dragon subscribe with Prime. Welcome, Bellator. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Super happy to have you. And thank you to Paige Oamek, the producer on this show, to Maximillien Inhoff, and to Andy Vasoyan. We stream every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Twitch. And remember to follow the show on Twitter at Bitchuation Pod, TikTok, and Instagram at FrannyFio. And remember also to fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, and don't just bitch about it, be about it.